Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button and keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. Alright folks, here we are after market close on Thursday, September 7th. We're going to take an updated look at T2 Biosystems. So as you know, if you've seen any of the previous videos on T2, we have a bunch of levels on the chart. So I first wanted to start on the intraday today, on the 10-minute, and see how our levels are holding up. Now this yellow line going through here is a trend line. You'll see that when we zoom out to the daily. But as we came into the day, in the early morning hours here, you see it trying to hold this 30-37 level, slips it, regains it, and kind of wrestles with it, loses it, stretches down 2 levels near that 28.38, tries to retake 29.33, comes down, opens, and sort of wrestles with support at 28.38. Gets a big push here, wrestles with 29.33, big push up through 2 levels, and what we often see when that happens, not just with T2 but other stocks also, is unless there's something that's just going to sort of sweep them upward, they skip a level and then they come down, and if they reconfirm that level, then we might be kind of off to the races. So they come up, get rejected off the level, come down and confirm support on the level that they skipped. Now comes up, and this is where it starts to break out, right up over this 31.37, gets sort of first gets resistance at 33.09, but then confirms support there, and then kind of wrestles between there and 34.93 for the rest of the day. So I'm really happy with how these levels are holding up at the moment. Even this, I guess what's percentage-wise perceived as a big stretch between 31.37 and 33.09, that played out in this scenario. So really pleased with how the levels are at the moment. Now if we zoom out to the daily, so all of that was just to say I'm not going to change those levels, or the levels that we have here. Now I know it looks cluttered the further zoomed out we are, but as you see, that clutter sort of makes sense when you're zoomed in on the 10-minute, right? This was the uptrend that we had noted back here that sort of kicked things off, and then things got, of course, like wild up in here, and then it slipped it, regained it, tested it, slipped it, and now the question is it doing another slip and regain like it did there? I don't know, but that's kind of what I'm looking at the moment. Apologies if you hear hordes of children screaming in the background, but yeah, that's, you of course are always looking for patterns, right? So I'm wondering how patternistic this motion is. I mean, also there's like a bit of a gap here that it was filling today. So, a lot of factors at play, as it might have also had a gap that it was filling here on this day as well, interestingly. So again, test, slip, regain, test, slip, regain? I don't know. But that is my question at the moment. Now, if we see where things are on the DMA, and then we'll flip over to the Thinkorswim study, long charge downward, but looking as though they may be wanting to kind of curl together. And when they curl together, then you look for a bullish crossover like this. And if you're a bull, you hope that it sets off a motion like this, right? So the other thing that sort of briefly faked me out, I don't think it's a thing. I was wondering if there was a head and shoulders kind of setting up here. I don't think so. I'm not super convinced of this shoulder. I see obviously a head and sort of a shoulder here. I'm not convinced that there's a clear left shoulder here. So something to keep an eye on, because these things aren't sort of like, they're sort of like constellations in a way. Not perfect analogy there, but in a way it's a little bit of like, how can you decipher? And also, versus those sort of formations, I typically would lean toward simply looking at support and resistance, trend lines, and a couple of indicators. But something maybe to keep an eye on in case that's what's happening. Like this sort of candle, and then this crazy drop, and then this crazy gap up, like that can sort of throw what may be a head and shoulders formation just sort of, it might make it a bit murky to try to decipher. So I don't know. I'm refraining on judgment for that at the time being, but in that refrain, I'm just going to ignore that as a thing that could be happening. If it happens, it'll be apparent, right? So at least we could be sort of early engagers of, okay, that maybe was a head and shoulder. Now, on the Thinkorswim study here, just keep in mind this is the hour time frame, whereas this was the daily, okay? Because Thinkorswim doesn't do a good job if we look at this on the daily. It's too compressed. You can't see anything. Now, interestingly, we had in recent days a lot of stretches from top of channel to bottom of channel. So we had obviously this significant and sustained downturn, right, where it couldn't regain the mid-range, which is what we always look for, testing the bottom, coming back, can't even reach the mid-range, right? That's where it's sort of like riding this red bearish wave cloud down. That's when it's in a really sort of, the bears have a hold of it. Confirms up here and then regains the mid-range. Okay, so that may be giving some hope, right? Rides the mid-range, and then gets a push up to the upper bound, comes down, doesn't even test the mid-range here, rides the wave again. This is during after and pre-market hours though, so those can be a little bit deceiving sometimes. Test here on the mid-range and then explosion up to the upper bound of the channel, mid-range loses it, riding the wave down again, right? So there's a bunch of motion from top of channel through the middle, bottom of channel, and so on and so forth. So we've had another one of those now. Couldn't reach the mid-range through yesterday and then into today. And I guess here sort of wicked off the bottom of the channel, came up, powered through it. Actually, this is a nice candle here in the sense of it shows that the body of that candle was the struggle point at the mid-range. And then what did the next candle do? Very formidably put in support at the mid-range and then pushed up to stretch to the top of the channel. Now, on the hour, the other thing that's coming into play here that makes this extra strong resistance is not just the top of the channel, but there's this 180 to 200 EMA cloud. That's this grayed out cloud that you see coming in to provide additional resistance. However, if it can find some support over that could provide significant lift and support for it to move upward. You see it here providing resistance, and here's where it tried to take it, right? Had a few candles where it tried to take it and it just lost it. And so it's just like anything else that we see where it tries to take a level and it loses it. And then maybe it tries again and loses it a little bit less, right? It pulls back a little bit less on the loss. And then maybe on the third attempt, it takes it, something like that, some version of that. So I'll be interested to see. Now it's made sort of 2 runs at it recently. I guess you could make the argument of 3 if you wanted. And sort of only one of those was able to stretch up and over. So this almost a bit of a weaker attempt at retaking it than this one a couple of days ago. So we'll see what that means. Now, right now in the after hours, question is, now that it hit the upper bound of the channel, is it going to stretch back down toward the mid-range, which would put it about 3150-ish. That changes every time a candle gets put in. So that's why it's, we'll see. Right now 3148, but it'll just move. Now the other thing is triggers here, fired, right, and a pretty big push down from this level here up route 31, pushed it all the way down through to 27.5 or so. Now a couple of triggers here, and then a few candles of firing. So is this going to be an instance of sort of like a misfire, sort of a misindication on the TTM squeeze? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But something I'm sort of at least keeping an eye on, that there could be another big move coming. And also if I look here, even since this day, there's sort of like the highest volume days do tend to look still relatively bullish to me. Stretch back here and you had a few decent bearish days, but bullish days here, bullish day here, bullish day here, bullish day here, right? And the other ones are, some of them are close, right? But generally a little lower volume on the bearish days. So something else to at least consider in the vast scheme of things. All right, folks, I hope that you had a good trading day and that you finish the week off strong tomorrow. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.